Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our podcast today. My name's Karen Tracy and I'm here again, of course, with Craig Tracy, the Member of Parliament for North Warwickshire and Bedworth. So how are you doing, Craig?
I'm very well.
You've got a bit of a cough, haven't you?
I have. I'm going to try not to let it interfere with the programme today. But now you reminded me about it, it's probably going to take over, isn't it?
Well,
Cheers.
I thought if you have a little cough during the thing, we'd sort of warn the
I'll
audience
have a
before we
slug of
set up.
water every now and then.
So it's not been that long, actually, has it, since we had our last podcast?
Right,
so we're going to start, as we always do, with your update from Parliament. So it's probably going to be slightly shorter today because of the time since our last podcast. So do you want to start us off?
Yeah. Well, it's still, like you said, quite a short time since last time. It's still quite a few things that have gone on. Quite high profile things as well, which we might deal with later on in the programme as well. Yeah, I'm sure we will. I think the first bit was that the Finance Bill number 2 passed its second reading, and that's now gone to committee stage. Football Governance Bill, which I mentioned a few weeks ago as well, that's gone through, that's progressing. That also went through second reading and will be with the Public Bill Committee. So all being well, come back in the next few weeks for us to have third reading.
What's the key thing about that then? Football Governance Bill.
So this is, I mean, we talked about it a few weeks ago, but it's basically just to try and support lower league clubs.
Yeah.
And just ensure the governance of those clubs, that they're in the right hands. We've seen some quite high profile examples of where football clubs have ended up with challenging owners, shall we say.
Yeah.
But so the idea of this is to put more power into the fans' hands as well. So it's quite a good bill. It's interesting because the Premier League are not too happy with it. They're pushing back, but I think it's got the support of the lower league clubs, and that's certainly, I think we've really got to protect that pipeline as well.
Yeah. So brilliant for the likes of our lower leagues in our constituency.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we might come to Coventry later on, but they're certainly, we've been speaking to them about, they're supportive. But I think down then to your non-league teams, Alisons, Bedworths, and your Coleshills, it helps them because it helps ensure some of the money flows down.
Excellent.
Through that as well. And then going on to probably the more higher profile bills that are going through, we had the Renters Reform Bill, which is looking at reviewing how rental properties are looked at, and no fault evictions. So that's passed its third reading in House of Commons, so that will now go for royal assent, and all being well, that will come through soon. And then two, which I'm sure most people will be aware of, is the Tobacco and Vapes Bill, which had its second reading on the 16th of April, I think it was, or thereabouts. So again, now that's gone on to the committee stage, and then the probably headline one is the Rwanda Bill, what people know as the Rwanda Bill. And that actually, after we went through this kind of bizarre parliamentary process called ping pong last Monday, where basically we refused the House of Lords amendments, and then we send it back to them, and it's. I actually saw the guy walk it. There's a clerk that walks it down to
through the centre.
Yeah, takes it down, hands it over to the Lords, and say, we disagree with your motions. Then they have the opportunity to amend it again. It came back, and it kept going backwards and forwards. It's called ping pong. That's so bizarre tradition, but we eventually got it through. It went early hours of Monday evening. It went through, and then yesterday received royal assent, so that is now in law.
Okay, so let's pick a couple of those up because I've got questions on. So the rent bill is really important, isn't it? Because I was watching a programme last night, and hearing somebody in their 30s has got no hope in heck from their perspective of getting on the housing ladder. Rents are out of control. I mean, how can we help people who are in those situations when they talk to you about being in that situation?
So I wouldn't say rents are out of control everywhere. I mean, there are some areas where it's particularly bad.
They're high though, especially
they're high, yeah, and I think it's obviously a supply and demand issue. So that's where you've got to be careful with bills like this, because the idea of the bill is to protect people against no fault evictions, where basically they are renting a property and then the landlord just decides don't want you anymore and you can go out. The problem with that is that there are genuine reasons why people need to sell property. They might need to move on.
Because we have to protect landlords as well, don't we?
Of course we do, of course. And there's got to be a balance. And that's why I say if you push landlords out of the equation on this, then rent prices are only going to go up because there'll be fewer rental properties.
Exactly.
So it's about striking a balance. And so the counter proposal to that. So on the one hand, we wanted to clamp down on people making people these no fault evictions, so you're being kicked out of their property for no good reason. But also we wanted to make sure that landlords are protected on things like antisocial behaviour and things where it does cause problems with them, it causes damage to properties and the like. So the bill was to try and balance those.
So what would you say to somebody who's in their 30s, they're not on the housing ladder, I mean, this chap last night, he said, it's my dream. That was the word he used. It's a dream.
Yeah.
I mean, how can we help people who are in this situation?
I mean, so that's a slightly different thing to what this bill is targeted at. But you're talking now about how you get people into the property ladder. First of all, you've got to build more properties. You've got to have the supply of new houses. But then I think particularly there's some really good schemes. There's a scheme called Rent Plus, which I've spoken with some of the guys on that, where they help with the deposit on the property and then you joint owe it, but a portion of your rent goes towards paying back the deposit, and then after a period of time you then become the outright owner of that property.
Otherwise it's like you're just throwing money at something and you're not not actually getting something for it personally, potentially.
Yeah, a lot of people who rent genuinely could afford a mortgage.
Yeah.
The barrier is generally this deposit.
Okay.
We are getting to a situation now. I mean, it's quite interesting when you speak to people, particularly younger people, that there's not that same ambition to own a property.
Interesting.
Same with a car, not to own it. They lease and they do these different things. So slightly different market, but you've got to, we've got to understand what's there and then make sure we provide for those people. But the Renters Reform Bill isn't designed for people to move people into owning their property.
Okay, well, I don't want to overshoot the runway. We probably could do a whole podcast on that, couldn't we, in terms of building more houses, whether you do it on Greenbelt, blah-de-blah-de-blah. It's a huge area. So
we don't do it on Greenbelt.
No. Well, I don't want to get into that one because that's too big, but, that is a debate in itself, isn't it? Of course.
From my perspective,
he doesn't do it on Greenbelt, right? We know we've heard it from the man himself. All right, Rwanda. Okay, this is a big one. It was stop the boats was the fifth big promise, wasn't it, of the Prime Minister? He's got to get this through. And the counter argument to this is for the money that's being spent on getting people to Rwanda, for the amount of people that'll actually go, it's not adding up. So where are you with this? And what would you say to those people with that argument?
So look, I mean, this is part of the arsenal to stop the boat crossings. It's a deterrent. First and foremost, it's got to act as a deterrent. But what we're trying to do on this, the challenge is it's not necessarily the people in the boats. It's the smuggling gangs who have a business model based around this. And their model is on, sending people to the UK. They sell them a dream of coming here. They make more money the more places that they travel to. And so we saw just this week, 5 more people killed crossing there. This is a risk to human life, and this is why I'm slightly amazed that people have pushed back on it, because it's not just about sending people to another country. It's about clamping down on economic migrants and not people who are fearing for their lives for asylum and claiming asylum. Sorry, but also it's these evil gangs who are making money out of basically scaring people, putting their lives at risk and selling them this life in the UK. So it's not in its own right. It's not going to stop every crossing. But already the feedback is that they've been interviewing people in some of the holding areas, and they've said if we'd known that we were going to be sent to Rwanda, we wouldn't have come over in the first place. And also, just today I was reading that Ireland are already seeing an increase of people going there now because they don't want to
Yeah.
want to risk being sent to Rwanda.
I mean, it's obviously widely accepted that the problem is obviously not the people; it's the gangs that are putting, who are facilitating the thing. But again, the counter argument is that instead of sending people on planes to Rwanda, the money should be spent, using intelligence, working with people on the European mainland to actually try and stop the gangs at source, where they're actually operating from, and using the money to stop them that way.
So that's already happening. There's a lot of investment in that, and it's not necessarily that we're just spending money on that. I was listening to James Cleverly speak at an event yesterday, the Home Secretary, and he was talking about the work that they do in cooperation, because this isn't just a problem in the UK. This is happening in Italy, it's happening in France, it's happening in Greece. So there is a cross-European task force that work on it. He speaks to those on a regular basis. We've invested a lot of people around the coast of France, and it is the French, and actually I was quite sceptical about it, but having seen the operation work now and seen some of they are doing an awful lot to try and stop people getting in the water, first of all, because
they cut the boats, don't they, the police in France on the beach?
Well, there's a number of things that they do, but it's also about stopping the parts that make up the boat actually getting there in the first place.
Right.
The challenge is you've got about 80 miles, I think, of coastline.
Yeah, it's a lot of coastline, isn't it?
And it's little coves and inlets, and it's very difficult to do. Once the boats get in the water, because of the types of boats that they use, they're then classed as being at risk. So once you get in the water,
they can't touch them.
We have a duty to save life.
Yeah, of course.
Under maritime.
And quite right. Yeah. Okay.
You did ask about the money as well, and I forgot about that. But I think so. The money side on it, I think, is an interesting one. That again, protecting the borders has never been free. We've always had to invest money into doing this, and I think this is a slightly different problem that we've got now. So I think it is right that we spend money, and I think if you spend some money up front on it and it dissuades people, in the longer term, it should actually save and prevent.
Okay, all right. I put the counter argument to you. You've said what you think. It's a massive thing, Let's see what happens. It's got through. Let's see what happens.
It's through now, and all being well, first flights will be off within a matter of weeks, and we will start to see the benefits.
The benefits of the upshot of it. Yeah. Okay, all right. You abstained from the tobacco and vapes bill, yes. I understand.
Yeah.
Why was that?
So, again, this is a really interesting one. And I think it's only about the second time I've ever abstained in anything in 9 years.
I was going to say, you don't normally abstain. No, you normally got a view, Craig.
Well, you've got doing this job. You'd like to think you have an opinion, and if I don't, you tell me what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. But no. So on this one, it's second reading. So it's kind of the really early stages of the bill. I heard really good arguments from both sides in terms of why we should go for it, why we shouldn't, and I think the sort of main ones that I would say was that the health benefits of this straight away we can see that's you can't argue with that at all, and now that we know what these issues are, should we be doing something about it? But then there's also the side, the sort of more political argument, which is around then you're bringing a two-tier system into place where different people have different laws applying to them. So having looked at it, I just genuinely couldn't work out which way to go on it. And as I say, with doing work with breast cancer charities and things, and they're strongly in favour of it. And then you've got other people talking about this other side and this freedom choice. So because it's early stages, what I've said to government is, I think this needs more work. I don't think it's
okay.
It's not a finished article, so it goes to committee stage now, and then there's a chance for amendments to come forward, and we'll sort of look at it again.
Adults, though, should be able to make up their own mind whether they're going to smoke or vape, though, shouldn't they?
Well, I think in general, yes, but I think I suppose it's an interesting one for government when that. A huge proportion of cancers and deaths are caused by something.
Yeah.
Should you should that be available, or do you look at it another way? Do you price people out the market? Do you, and then you bring in black markets and you bring in all sorts of different challenges. So
You don't smoke, do you?
no, no.
You have done that, haven't you?
I've done, yes, yeah, but that's kind of probably the worst person to ask on this. But I think this is where you come into when you're talking to people about the vape side of the argument, is that that they're saying that they're used to stop people smoking. Then you've got quite clearly these are aimed at children, at young people.
Yeah, they are. They look like sweets. They look like sweets,
yeah, they
don't
do,
they?
yeah. And so that was the other side of the bill. And I think again, you'd like to think that everybody would act responsibly, but we know that some people do need help to do things.
Of course. Okay. We're running out of time, and we've got 2 reminders at the end, so I want to get those in. So a quick thing, just a quick, if you can, on ketamine. And the fact that it's obviously only currently a Cat C drug, and I know that you've had a lot of requests for help from families where people have died from use of this drug, and they want it to be Cat A. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, a really sad case of a constituent. I think the inquest was just recently. I met with a parent, and really, really sad story of a young lad doing well, got hooked on ketamine and was able to access it. It's actually available as prescription. It's prescribed bizarrely for depression. I think if you're going back, I mean, back in the day when I was at school, we used to laugh about it because it was a horse tranquilizer.
Gosh.
And it's now available for prescription.
Shocking.
I think the worry is when you see things like in the US where they've had the opiates crisis, where these readily available drugs are actually become more of a challenge to society than the illegal drugs. We've got this, but when you hear the story of this young lad who had a great career at JLR, bright guy, and then it sort of plays havoc with your intestine. It's not something that mentally messes around with you. But it actually basically burns away your internal organs.
It sounds horrific. So can that happen? How easy is it to make it a Cat A?
Well, it's not straightforward. So we've been to see the police minister, Chris Philp, on it, and he's basically agreed to look at it and review it and get it out there. But we're just trying to build up evidence from local hospitals and things just to see what the increase is. But it's just for the family involved. It's just we really want to try and get something done for them.
Well, yeah, our good wishes go to them. So that must be horrendous.
Awful,
so thank you for your update on that. Right, time speeders. You've got 2 reminders you want to give to your audience. One around local elections and make sure that they vote. And
well, that's your reminder there, isn't it? I would just say, just remember that you have to take ID with you if you are going into a polling station. So next week you've got Police and Crime Commissioner elections, and also if you live in Bedworth, you will have local elections there as well.
Yeah, and everybody should vote. Just vote. Yeah. And what's your other one?
The other one is Jobs Fair. Jobs Fair. So
where's your Jobs Fair?
It's in Atherstone.
Are you going to be there?
I will be there.
How many employers you got there?
So historically, we've had around about 30 employers. They have to have live jobs, so they have to have things on offer, and they're from local organisations to nationals. BMW, Aldi often come along.
And people get jobs, don't they, these days?
Yeah. So we've actually had people get jobs on the day.
Yeah.
They've actually
you come home and told me that.
Signed up.
Yeah, brilliant.
I'm just you're not going to ask me about VAR. I thought we were going to ask me about.
We haven't got time. Coventry. You're at the Coventry game. I don't normally watch football, and even I was jumping up and down. And when it was a toenail away, apparently, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Offside, honestly.
Yeah.
But you were there, weren't you?
I was there. It was fantastic. Coventry, really.
Poor Coventry
did well for themselves, but I think what it means is now I was in the lobby on Monday night when we were voting on the Rwanda Bill, and I saw the Prime Minister, and I actually said to him,
"Is he a Coventry fan?"
No, he's a Southampton fan. but I said to him, but they're in the championship. But he said if Coventry are playing Southampton, because they haven't got VAR there, that would have been a goal. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, you've got to get this reviewed, haven't you? So
So you were lobbying in the lobby
for a review of VAR for offside rules. It's
run
got
out
to be
of time.
It's got to be longer than a toenail.
It's got to be longer than a toenail. Never in a in a political interview has that ever been said. You know, I've made it. It's been longer than a toenail. Thanks so much, Craig, for today. Thank you for tuning in. We've really enjoyed it again, haven't we?
Yeah, time going quickly.
Send in your questions if you want me to pose any questions to Craig, and we'll see you again next time.
Cheers.
See you.